Hello, fellow unqualified gamers. You may know me as Jonathan. I am one of the two dynamic duos that hosts Unqualified Gamers, a video game podcast. I also host Unqualified Experts, a podcast where experts talk about everything that appears on our YouTube channel. And you'll notice that I'm here by myself today. Normally I podcast with a co-host, Cody, and really, he's terrible. So this episode may in fact be the best episode that this show has ever created. And I think I can say that pretty safely without hyperbole. Um, so, uh, this is the first, I'll be honest, this is the first time I've ever done kind of a solo act. I think. Keep in mind, we've done a lot of episodes of this show, so I may have done this before, but I don't really remember. But this will be my first time doing this alone. And it's probably going to be kind of an abbreviated episode because I don't have some annoying jerk taking up over half of the speaking time in our episode, which is what typically happens every time that we record. If you don't know anything about us, we are a video game podcast that talks about sometimes video games, maybe infrequently talks about video games. We don't talk about video games that much. Instead, we talk about basically everything else that is not video games. I'm going to try to change that with this particular episode. I'm going to try to keep it pretty video game centric by starting with the normal thing that we start with, what I did this weekend, which really has nothing to do with video games. So actually, we haven't recorded an episode in a couple of weeks, and that was because Cody had some family stuff he needed to take care of last week, and I didn't want to do a solo episode at that point. And he and I have been very busy before, but he is still very busy, and so he requested that I do this solo venture. And last week, I was in a city in the south of Minnesota. I live in Minnesota, and I was in a city in the south of Minnesota for work. And I was in a hotel for a week, and it was kind of my first taste of hotel living. I haven't really done any hotel living before, and I realized that I am a terrible solo traveler when it comes to traveling for, I don't know, anything. So I got put up at the Holiday Inn, which was a phenomenal hotel in Owatonna, Minnesota. They had, I don't know, it was a place that had like a pool and a hot tub and a restaurant in the hotel and everything, and that was all great. And I packed my suitcase to go, and I packed all of my clothes and stuff and everything that I would need for work and all of my extracurricular activity type stuff. I had my Kindle in case I wanted to read any books. I had my iPad because I've been playing through Final Fantasy VI on that. I had my laptop because I was supposed to podcast with Cody before that got canceled, and I actually did another podcast later in the week when I did Unqualified Experts podcast. So I had all this stuff with me, and that was all great, and I brought it down there. And I got down there, and it was 40 degrees outside. Like, we had this crazy cold snap, probably because I live in Minnesota. And it went from 70 degrees the week before to 40 degrees this week when I was in Owatonna. And I didn't pack a coat. I didn't think to pack a coat. I have done so little solo traveling that I didn't pack a coat. Not only did I not pack a coat, I didn't pack a sweatshirt or a casual long sleeve shirt. The only long sleeve shirts that I had were dress shirts. So what this meant was, rather than be able to go out in the evening to someplace that was not my hotel, I basically was confined to my hotel because I did not have the necessary clothing to leave the hotel. And keep in mind that, like, it was 40 degrees and the wind was blowing like 30 miles an hour for 3 days. So it was not a situation where I would want to go out of the hotel. So I got a lot of time with my hotel room. So that's one instance in how I did not pack correctly. The other instance is that, I packed the requisite number of underwear that I knew I would need. But of course, I ended up with like one pair of socks, and I don't know how that happened. Because because I swear I packed more than that, but I ended up with one pair of socks, and I really needed probably more than one pair of socks. So anyway, I learned from this that like I think I know what I need on my next trip, but something tells me I'm going to screw it up the next time too, because I'm going to be traveling for work again. Um, so anyway, what that meant was that I was alone for a week, and like normally that would mean, oh, like I got this would probably be a lot of really good video game time, um, and I thought it was gonna be, and well, it was. I mean, I can't say that it wasn't, but I didn't get done the things that I wanted to do. So if you've been listening to the podcast for the past couple episodes, you know that I had this uh, feral urge to play through all of the Final Fantasy games again. And I've been simultaneously playing through Final Fantasy IV at home on my big screen TV because it recently was released on Steam. And then I've been playing through Final Fantasy VI on my iPad. So I didn't have Final Fantasy IV with me because that's on my TV at home, and for some reason Square hasn't figured out how to do cloud saving technology correctly, and so their cloud saving does not work. Or I should say, they don't even have cloud save support with Final Fantasy IV on Steam, and so my save exists solely on my PC here at home in my basement. But I did have my iPad with me, so I thought, oh, like this is the perfect opportunity for me to make some serious headway into Final Fantasy VI. I had just entered the World of Ruin, which is basically the second half / 2/3 of the game, so I had quite a bit of game left. And I'll be honest, I've played through the first half of that game far more frequently and often than I have played through the second half. So I was kind of excited because I was like, I'm going to do this. There's a lot of stuff that like I remember everything about it. But I just haven't done it as many times, so it still feels like fun and fresh once I hit the World of Ruin in that game. That was my plan. You know what they say about the best laid plans? Cody ruins them, is what they say. That's how the saying goes. He did, in fact, ruin it. He is the ruiner. Actually, it wasn't his fault. So Blizzard, my favorite gaming company, I'm on the record saying that, has a game called Diablo III. And if you look back at our history, we have talked about Diablo III 1,000 times, maybe 1,000,000 times. In fact, at this point, after this episode, Diablo III may have come up more frequently on our podcast than Final Fantasy 13 too. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but I think it may be true. I think I may have talked about Diablo 3 more frequently than we've talked about Final Fantasy 13 too. But anyway, Diablo 3 released a new season for their game. Now, seasons are, I've talked about seasons before. I talked about seasons the first time that they appeared in Diablo 3. That was probably episode, I would guess around 50. And what a season basically is it's kind of like an online competitive leaderboard that they reset. So there's a number of achievements in the game, and the season tracks, the way the seasons work are you get the most achievement points that you can in the season, and then the leaders are on the leaderboard for all eternity, and then they reset the ladder, and you start with the new season the next time. The reason why it is beneficial to participate in seasons is because you get access to the possibility of loot that you've never seen before dropping. It only drops during that season. It will then drop in the regular game after the season is done, but like during the season, when the season of Diablo 3 is underway, you can only get the seasonal gear by playing a seasonal character, which you have to start from level 1 and basically level up to the maximum level all the way from the start, and like that's how that works. So I participated in season 1, not in season 2, and so I thought, okay, well, season 3 just got released on like this Monday when I first got to Owatonna. I am going to, like I can run Diablo 3 on my crappy laptop, which is awesome. It runs really poorly, but I'm gonna try to run it anyway. And it still runs. It just runs at like, I don't know, maybe like 20 frames a second. So it's not the ideal way to play the game, but it's okay. And so I jumped in and I started a new character. And I started a witch doctor, which is this character that I've been playing. I've been playing witch doctors in that game since the start of the game. That's by far my favorite character class. And I started playing, but right before I made the character, I was like, you know what I have never done in Diablo 2 or Diablo 3? I have never made a hardcore character. So I think that for this season, I am going to try making a hardcore character. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the way the hardcore characters work in Diablo, it means you have one life. In the traditional sense of Diablo, um, you you can die as many times as you want, and basically, when you die, your equipment takes a durability hit, and then that requires more money to repair, and that's it. You go on your merry way after you resurrect. In hardcore, you can spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours leveling your character, uh, only to have it all of that work completely disappear the moment that you die. So there's literally no reason to make it a hard like there's no reason to make it a hardcore character other than there's some there's like some added excitement, I guess, for having a single death and only a single death for your character. So I said I've never done this. Um, I don't. I'll probably only be playing Diablo 3 while I'm here in Owatonna. Uh, I expect that I will probably be dead by the time I leave where I'm at because I was there from Monday night through Friday afternoon. And so I was like, I'll probably play this game enough to where I will be dead by the time I go home, and I won't have to think about this character again. So I'm playing the game and I'm doing my thing, and I level my character from 1 to 70, which is the maximum level, and I do that in like 1.5 nights, which is about the speed at which I think that they have kind of designed it for now. If you're just mainlining the game, and with the way that the difficulty in that game is tuned, you can choose from, I don't know, like 15 different difficulties total. And I was playing on the lowest difficulty, actually the second lowest difficulty, which is hard. I was playing on hard, um, and through my journey all the way to level 70, I was getting equipment drops, and I was constantly changing out my equipment and getting more powerful stuff. And I never felt, for those first 70 levels, I never felt one bit of danger. I didn't. It never felt like my character was in danger of dying the entire time, which was I don't know. I think it was a little anticlimactic. It was a little antithetical, maybe, to the idea of the hardcore character. So I got all the way to level 70, and I had a bunch of these rift stones, which are these stones that you use to open rifts in the game, which are these. They're just like a randomly generated dungeon that you have to kill enough monsters in to generate like a giant boss, and you kill the boss, and you have a better chance at loot than in any other part of the game. Is the way that a rift works. So I had been gathering these shards on my journey to level 70 with the intention of just running rifts. Because it's a randomly generated thing. It's like kind of always fresh. It's got a completely different assortment of enemies every time you go in, and a completely different tile set. So it's kind of where the end game of that game is right now, are in these rifts. So I said I am going to just run rifts at level 70, and I had 50 to 60 stones that I could use. It takes one stone to open a rift. I had a lot of stones to open rifts. I could run them for a very long time. And so I jumped in, and I jumped in on hard again, and I ran through a couple of rifts, and I got some good pieces of gear. I got some epic level gear in that. I'm talking about Diablo 3 right now. I got some epic level gear when I was running through these rifts. Um, and that was all great. And so I got a little confident, and I was like, all right, so I've got this hardcore character now. Now I've got some upper level gear. I'm gonna try bumping up the difficulty a bit. And like I said, there's not 15 difficulties. There's 6 of the highest difficulty, and then like 4 difficulties under that. There's like 10 different difficulties. We'll rank them 1 to 10. So I'm playing on 2 right now, right? And keep in mind, I die once, and my character is gone forever. So I bumped the difficulty up to like level 4, and I run a couple more rifts. And keep in mind, like, I have literally not gone below like half health by this point in playing the game. And so I jump up to difficulty 4, and I've got all this new gear, and I'm still not in any danger at all. So I'm playing, and I run a couple of rifts at like difficulty 4, and I don't. I get some more like epic drops. I don't have any difficulty clearing anything, um, and so my character becomes even more powerful this way. And and I'm like, well, I've got like a lot of really good gear now. I mean, I had like epic quality gear in every slot for my character. Um, I had the start of some sets. Like there are sets in the game where if you have multiple equipment of these sets of equipment, it grants you like these extra ultimate bonuses that are super awesome. And so I had like a couple of pieces of sets that were generating even more power for my character. And I said, well, I mean, if 4 is not giving me difficulty, I'm going to jump the difficulty up to 6. Now, keep in mind, this is just hubris now. Like, there's no, I'm getting great gear from the difficulty level that I'm at. My character is still progressing relatively rapidly. There's no reason for me to bump the difficulty up to level 6, but I do because I'm awesome, and so I keep playing the game. And I'm playing at level 6, and now like the rift is actually starting to become a little more challenging. I'm never really in, I guess, in danger. I would say I'm never really in danger of dying, but I do. There are some scares. I have to kind of have some fancy feet on my character a little more. You definitely have to like worry about the stuff on the ground at that difficulty, and you gotta like stay out of it. So I have to play a little harder. And it makes the game more fun. And there is certainly, and this is not something I had experienced before because I never rolled a hardcore character, but there is a definite level of tension when you are playing a character where you have one life. Like, I would get down to like a quarter health, and like there's this red border effect that it appears on the screen, and oftentimes you can't be looking at the health bar like the entire time that you're playing. You have to be looking at what's on screen, and so like that red border indicator may be your last indicator that you're about to die. And so I have this one life, the red border comes up, and I'm like, holy shit, I got to get out of here. And so I would use an ability. I'd run away, and I'd run away from all of the enemies, and I'd hang out for a couple of seconds, regenerate, do whatever, until I was ready to jump back in again. So there was a definite tension that was created from rolling a hardcore character. And like I said, I'd never done this before. So it was the first time I'd ever kind of got to experience that with Diablo. And so that's going well. I clear some more rifts that way. I'm having a lot of fun at this point with it. And so all of that is fun. I get even more powerful equipment in the game. So now my character's like beefed up. Like, I've got 4 of 6 pieces for this one set of equipment. I've got 2 pieces for another set of equipment. So I've got bonuses based on those. I've got a pretty good weapon, which is like arguably the most important piece of all of your equipment. And so I'm ready. Like I'm rocking. You can't really bump it up to the highest difficulty, and I know this just from experience, until you're basically totally decked out. But I bump it up to like 8. And I jump back into the game. And again, keep in mind, like I said, I am progressing quickly and easily. There is no reason for me to bump up the game's difficulty even more, other than me being an arrogant asshole. So I keep playing the game, and now I have this passive ability on my character that keeps me from dying once. Like, I can go to 0 health, and then it like pops this ability, and I'm invulnerable for 3 seconds, and then I have 2 minutes again before the ability can be used again. So like, I technically have like 2 lives, right? I've got this 1 life, and then I have 3 seconds of invulnerability to like get the hell out of there, and then I have my second life. So I'm playing, and this ability is starting to get popped because I'm fighting hard enough enemies to where they will actually like kill me that first time. And what I will do, like a chicken shit, this ability will pop, and I will run away, and I will like disappear from the area. I will run out of the area completely. I will just wait around for 2 minutes until this ability comes back up again, and then I will jump back into the area in which I was fighting enemies. Because like I fear for my character without this cushion of this extra life ability that I have on. And this happens a couple of times, but I'm still managing to clear some rifts, and all that's great. And keep in mind, this is over the course of like 4 days. Like, this isn't me in one sitting. This is like me over a couple of days. So I'll like come back to the game the next day and I'll be like, I'm gonna try a little harder. That was kind of when I was bumping the difficulty up. So it's one morning. It's like Friday morning. It's the day I'm gonna leave, and I don't have to leave, to get to work until like 7:45, and I'm up at 6 because I also sleep like garbage when I'm by myself, and like I said, I don't travel well by myself. I'm in a hotel by myself. I don't sleep well. I'm used to having my wife next to me, so I just slept like crap. So I was up at 6. I don't have to leave till 7:45. I'm like, well, I'm gonna get in some. I'm gonna get in some Diablo. So I turn on the TV and I turn on the news, and I turn on Diablo, and I'm playing, and I start a rift, and everything's going. It's going okay. I end up drawing like the worst. So, like I said, you randomly spawn these different enemies when you first enter a rift, and I spawned like the worst possible enemy group that you can get. There are these angels, right? That basically beeline for you. They make a dash for you. The dash does damage to you. They knock you back with their ability, and basically, if you have any stuff in front of you, like I had a bunch of pets in front of me, they can just run right through that line of pets to get right to you. So basically, my entire strategy was for naught against them. I would have to kind of run away and kite them back and forth. So they required an intense amount of concentration to the game. And so I'm playing, and I get into this like second tile set, and these stupid fallen angels are appearing everywhere, and I'm fighting them, and my pets are going crazy and killing everything, and that one ability gets popped where I die once, but I get invulnerable, and I don't leave the level right away like I've been doing because I've got my ear to the news, so I'm like listening to what's going on there, and I'm just like, I'll be fine. I'll just like run away, and we'll be totally fine. And so I turn back, and I'm back up alive after that 3 seconds of invulnerability, and I run back, and I'm at full health again, and my pets are killing everything, and and then I hear like some sort of important story on the news, and I turn to it, and I'm like, what the heck is that? And there's some inflammatory picture on the TV. And literally in like the 2 seconds that I look over to the TV and I look back to my computer screen, my character is dead. And basically what had happened was an elite pack had run up from off of the screen that I hadn't seen because I was kiting this giant cursed angel thing away. This elite pack, which is like the hardest enemies you will fight in these rifts, had run in from the side that I hadn't seen. They had some horrible abilities that just instantly killed me. So that was the horrendous way that my first hardcore character was deceased. It wasn't due to like me saying, all right, I'm like ready to fight this really hard boss that I don't know if I'm going to kill, but I'm going to go for it. And I'm going to like go out in this blaze of glory if I'm going to die. No, it was me turning towards like CNN because they had some like earthquake picture or something. And then turning back and being like, oh, well, I'm dead. That was fun. So I looked, and it was like 20 hours of playtime on this character. I put like 20 hours of playtime in this character in 5 days. Now, keep in mind that like Diablo 3, seriously, one of like my favorite games. Like I absolutely love that game. And I've played it multiple times through on many different character classes. So it like I'm willing to go back to it again. That's not a big deal. But it was just like, it was the most infuriating and anticlimactic way to end my first hardcore character. Like, there's a boss at the end of the game who's really difficult, even on like the lower difficulties, who like I would understand if I decided it was time to go take on that boss for the first time in hardcore mode, and I did it, and I picked the wrong difficulty, and that was the way I died. But no, it was this stupid elite pack from me watching like Fox News or something. So I don't think I will do another hardcore character. I think that was my first one and my only one, just because of the intense amount of concentration that it takes. Also, keep in mind that like the game is online always. So Diablo 3, you always have to have an internet connection. If there's any kind of lag or anything, your character can die from that. And I was on like shitty hotel internet. And so like there were times where like my character would rubber band. which is where there's a bunch of lag and packet loss, and then once your computer catches up, like all of the inputs that you put in for that character catch up. But meanwhile, anything that's happening server side continues to happen, and so if like something's attacking you, it'll just continue to attack you without you reacting until all of your data gets transmitted. Anyway, if that happens and you're on an online only game, whatever stuff happens like on their server side continues to happen when you're not doing any inputs. And so your character can, like, you can have a lag spike and you can come back and your character can just be dead. And Blizzard will not, they will not resurrect a hardcore character ever for any circumstance. So keep that, like, think about that. If you have a shitty lag spike and your character dies, and because your game has to be online, you cannot recover that character. So, knowing all of those things, and again, I have a deep love for this game, but knowing all of those things and having my hardcore character die in the shitty way that it did, I don't think I will ever roll another hardcore character. I'll probably participate in seasons again because seasons are fun, but I don't think I'll do another hardcore character. So that was basically all of the video gaming I did when I was traveling, right? Because like I didn't think I'd be playing it that much, but I totally did. I mean, I got back into it to the point where I was playing it before I went to work. Like, there aren't a lot of games that do that to me. This game does that to me sometimes. So, yeah, Diablo 3, all for it. If you haven't played it, go get it. It's really good. And then just a couple of other updates. We've had 2 weeks, and so I got back home, and I got to sit back down with both Final Fantasy 4 and 6 again. In Final Fantasy 4, I have breached the last dungeon. I'm currently working my way through the last dungeon. That remake of that game, when it went to 3D, it originally got released on the DS, and they've ported it to both the iPad and Steam. I'm playing it, like I said, I'm playing it on Steam on my big screen right now. The final dungeon is really difficult. So I'm working my way through that, and it's taking way longer than I remember. Like, it's gonna be like a 3-hour dungeon by the end of it, I think, which is great. Don't get me wrong, I'm enjoying it because it's a game that is just, it preys on my nostalgia for it, because it's in modern game design, it's probably not considered all that great of a game, but it's still like I'm having a ton of fun with it. So there's that. Every battle takes strategery now, which is great. So I have to think about every time I fight. And then in Final Fantasy VI, I made a ton of progress. I'm in the world of Ruin now. I have every single character recruited except for Locke. I haven't done any of the optional stuff that doesn't recruit a character. So like there's an ancient castle that I haven't done. There's Doma Castle where you go into Cyan's Dream, which I haven't done. There's like all of the optional stuff that doesn't recruit a character I have not done. I'm doing that because I kind of wanted to just get all the characters again and then do the other optional stuff. But I plan to do like literally everything. That's my plan anyway with the game. And the iPad version controls still suck. The sprites still suck. But the gameplay all remained completely intact. It is all the exact same as it was on the Super Nintendo. And holy crap, it's been a really long time since I've played Final Fantasy VI, but man, it's a really good game, like legitimately. And now we're talking about with modern game design, I would argue that it is still a very good game. And it's incredibly accessible. The only problem is that it is like, if you have not played a Final Fantasy game, that's fine, because the most recent ones kind of in general haven't been fantastic. But if you want to get into the series, I really think that 6 is probably the best starting point. It really might be, in terms of like an accessibility standpoint. And it is not easy to get because I can't recommend the iPad version, because again, that's where I'm playing it. The game has crashed multiple times. I've lost my data, like not completely lost my data, but I've lost progress because of that. The sprites look bad. The controls are bad. Like, it's not a good version. I'm playing it because it is my convenient version to play, but I can't recommend it to anybody. Like, I can't say like, start with this game, because it's going to leave you with a bad taste in your mouth. The only way really to get it is to go get the DS release of Final Fantasy VI, because there was one. It might be the Game Boy Advance release. To be honest, I can't really remember if it was DS or Advance, but it was one of those two systems. But that was the best version of the game to date. And like, I don't think you can find it cheaply anymore. I wouldn't imagine, because pretty sure it's out of print, like that particular re-release. So right now, the only accessible version of the game I think to easily get is the iPad version. And again, like I said, it's not good. So regardless, if you haven't played a Final Fantasy game, I would say start with 6 if you can get it on the Game Boy Advance or the DS. If you can't get it on one of those systems, the Final Fantasy IV version, or I should say the iPad version of Final Fantasy IV, is excellent. So I don't know why they were like, there is such a disparity between the two games on the iPad. The fact that Final Fantasy IV, it really is excellent, and that Final Fantasy VI is just plain not good. I don't know how that happened. But that's just kind of how it is. So I can recommend the iPad version of Final Fantasy IV. Now, that being said, keep in mind that game is also on Steam. So if you want to play it on a big screen TV, you might as well just buy it on Steam, because that's kind of the best way to play it right now. And then other than that, I haven't really done any other gaming. I'm sure Cody would have had nothing to talk about had he been on the show, because that's kind of how our episodes go. He usually doesn't do anything. And so I don't think we really lost anything without him being here. So I did just get a comment from somebody that's watching the stream. It looks like Josh Whitmore had just said that it was the Game Boy Advanced version, which then that's what I thought. So it's like an older version of Final Fantasy VI I'm talking about here. It's like an older version than like it's going to be really difficult to find that version. But they fixed, like, so there were a ton of bugs in the Super Nintendo version of the game. They fixed all of them in the Game Boy Advance version. There were a bunch of statistical errors, like on character statistics, and they fixed all of those. And then they did a complete retranslation, and the retranslation is excellent on that Game Boy Advance version. Now, they use the same translation for the iPad version, but with all the other problems with the iPad version, it still is. I can't recommend it. So, anyway, I thank you for if you watch this, I appreciate that. If you're listening to this, I appreciate you following along with, again, my first solo episode. Next week, I think we'll probably have a more traditional episode. To my knowledge, Cody's schedule is going to calm down a little bit. My schedule has definitely calmed down a little bit now, so shouldn't be traveling for a while, hopefully, unless something changes. But we should get a kind of a regular episode of Unqualified Gamers the next time that we record. Until then, you can find us on unqualifiedgamers.com. That's where you're going to find all of the stuff related to this podcast, as well as if you go to our YouTube channel, Unqualified Podcast, you'll be able to find a new project that we just initiated a couple of weeks ago. It's probably been about a month now. It's called Unqualified Experts. 5 of us get together and we impart our knowledge on, really, we're experts on everything. And so we pick a topic and we let you know everything there is to know about that topic. Our most recent episode is about ghosts. And we know everything about ghosts, so you can go check that out. We've also done an episode on allergies and an episode on the great American author Charles Dickens. So you can find all those episodes there on our YouTube channel at Unqualified Podcast. So until then, I'm Jonathan. I appreciate you all for joining me. Thanks again, and happy gaming for the next week. We'll see you next time.